The opening week of NBA basketball has started. There's been a lot of interesting games going on. So we're going to start off with our weekly impressions. Trevon, what are your thoughts about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Yeah, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder basically came into game one looking how they have been advertised, picking right up from where they left off last season. I was just very impressed with the way they were able to space out the Denver Nuggets and put pressure on all defenders at all time at any moment. I was really impressed with specifically Chet Holmgren. He showed a lot of flashes of his ability to play make, put the ball on the floor, stretch the floor, and to finish above the rim. So I liked his play. And then you obviously have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander coming in, doing his scoring punch that he always does. He's a big candidate for MVP and will probably finish top three in the voting. He's definitely looking to take that hardware home this season. And then obviously you have the rest of the guys, your J Dubs. You have Caruso, who's coming in as a veteran for this team. You have Isaiah Joe stretching the floor. And then you have guys down the bench, kind of like Aaron Wiggins and people like that, that are just always finding ways to contribute. Luke Dort, I can't forget about him and what he provides to this team on both ends of the ball. And they just look electric offensively. They're young, spry. They all have the ability to take you off the bounce. And then on the bright side, also for the Thunder, you have to think about Isaiah Hartenstein coming back and thinking about what he can provide to this team, the ability to play that five spot alone, the ability to play that five spot beside Chet Holmgren and allow Chet to kind of be more on the perimeter. I was just very impressed with how they were able to pick right up from where they left off last season. I think out of the top three teams that most people are putting in that upper echelon of the Western Conference, the Thunder looked the best by far on opening night. So I'm really impressed with what they did on both ends of the ball and pretty much just took it home to the Nuggets on the road, game one, winning pretty comfortably. So yeah, that was my team. Trevor, you really like what you saw from the Celtics. So tell us exactly what you saw from opening night.
Yeah, man. Opening night was a big game for the Celtics. Ring night, celebrating their championship from last season. I think that they came out with a purpose and they wanted to show the world that they are still that team that you have to fear in the Eastern Conference. And it's funny that you talked about the Thunder because I think the Thunder remind me a lot of the Celtics. They have a lot of players in a lot of different spots that can do a lot of different things, and they have a lot of shooters that can space the floor, and their teams just fit very well together. And that's what I saw from the Celtics. A lot of people are going to talk about how many threes the Celtics get up. They almost broke the single game record for 3 points made. But if you really look at what the Celtics do on offense, they create a lot of quality shots, high quality shots through driving, kicking, keeping the floor spaced, and allowing their playmakers to make plays. And then you look at Jason Tatum. He has a very good ability to make high quality passes. He had 10 assists in that game alongside Jaylen Brown, who does his thing. You also have Drew Holiday, who contributes, and Derek White, I think, is a player that a lot of people might overlook when they think about the Celtics, but he is a very important piece as well. And if you even look at it, the Celtics haven't even played with Kristaps Porzingis yet. So once he gets back, just thinking about what this team can be. And again, the Celtics, they put up a lot of three pointers, but they create a lot of high quality shots through their offense and how they run it. It's not just jacking up a whole bunch of three pointers. It's actually through high quality basketball that they generate those shots from. So, Trevon, the next team on your list are the Denver Nuggets. What are your impressions on the Denver Nuggets for the first few days of the NBA season?
Yeah, for the Nuggets, I feel like this is going to be a big adjustment season because not only last season did they lose a guy like Bruce Brown, who was the sixth man, provided a lot of production on both offense and defense. I think that they have another big adjustment to come in this season with losing KCP. The thing about the Nuggets was their five just fit together so well. Each player did exactly what complemented the next man's weaknesses. And losing KCP, who was part of your starting five, you lose that element of shooting outside of Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. You have those two for sure, but KCP was always just in the right spot at the right time, and you cannot overlook what he did defensively. We know Aaron Gordon for being that Swiss Army knife who usually takes on most of the premium forwards in this league. You think about him guarding people like LeBron and other great forwards in the NBA, especially in the Western Conference. But you also had KCP, who had that ability to guard a guy like LeBron if he got switched on to him. He took on the Anthony Edwards assignment in last season's playoffs. And when you lose that, you do have a very good defender in a guy like Christian Braun, who had actually played very well last night. And then you look at Julian Strawther, who's another young player that Coach Michael Malone is really looking to have an impactful season this year. You have the defense and athleticism of KCP and Christian Braun, and you have the ability to shoot and stretch the floor in Julian Strawther. But instead of having one player that can do both of those things at all times, you have to split minutes between those two young players that are trying to figure out how to fit in with this roster. So Michael Malone has a lot of things to figure out and figure out how to put this puzzle together. So Trevor, you also were pretty impressed with some things by the Minnesota Timberwolves. So why don't you let us know what you saw there?
Well, I'm not sure if impressed is the exact words, but I have a lot of impressions. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, the first night they played the Los Angeles Lakers, that game was interesting to say the least. It was the start of this new era with Anthony Edwards not having Karl Anthony Towns on that team. They just extended Rudy Gobert. They added Julius Randle along with Dante DiVincenzo from the Knicks. So everyone is wanting to see what this team looks like. And that game was pretty much similar to what we saw in the Western Conference Finals, right? A lot of pressure is on Ant to create for his team. There wasn't much spacing necessarily. Adding Dante DiVincenzo helps with the spacing because he is a really good shooter. But adding Julius Randle, what's that dynamic going to look like between him and Anthony Edwards? And we saw Julius Randle kind of trying to figure that out, and he didn't have the best night that opening night. But the next game against the Kings, he showed out and he showed up, had a lot more energy that game, and he actually had 30 plus points against the Kings alongside Anthony Edwards, who he also showed up and had 30 plus points as well. So I think for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this team continues to improve throughout the season, what they're going to look like, how they're going to get into their different offensive sets. That's the team that I'm going to be looking out for because this year is going to be an interesting year for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, Trevon, the next team you have on your list for impressions this week are the Dallas Mavericks. So, what are your impressions on them for the first few days of the NBA season?
Yeah, so I like some things from Dallas. I think that they still have that dynamic going on. You have your two shot creators in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And then I really do like PJ at that four spot with that level of shot creation around him. In Charlotte, he was one of those guys that had to contribute to creating shots, which is not his strong suit. He's more of a play finisher than a playmaker. And then I love that dynamic with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford backing him up. I think Lively just has the potential to continue to grow and just get better on both the offensive side and even the defensive side, even though he's already a high level player. And then obviously you have Klay Thompson that's coming into the mix here. This was a good showing for him in his first game. He had a pretty rough preseason as far as shooting the ball percentage wise, but I think tonight he really looked comfortable. And I think that just speaks to the volumes of the advantages that Luka can create for his guys surrounding him. With the attention that Kyrie and Luka are both going to draw, I think this is just going to be easier for Klay. I do think the challenge is really figuring out how to use Klay because we talked last night and I mentioned to you, like, man, they don't even really know what they have in Klay quite yet. So I'm very curious to see how Jason Kidd comes up with creative ways to utilize him and kind of search for some shots for Klay in a way that Dallas may not have been used to because things go through Luka and Kyrie so much. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I think you'll see a lot of nights like that from Klay's standpoint, just being out there, making threes, making teams pay for putting too much attention on Luka and Kyrie. So I think that was a very positive sign. And I wasn't taking them serious to make it back to the Western Conference Finals, but I think it's very much more likely if Klay's play can reach that level that we know it can. All right, Trevor. And lastly, on your list, you do have the Los Angeles Lakers included. So tell us what you're thinking there with LA.
Yeah, man. The Los Angeles Lakers, I was really impressed with how they showed up in game one of the season. And honestly, I've been impressed with them going back to the preseason. I've really liked what JJ Redick has brought to this team in terms of offensive philosophy. There's a lot of man movement, a lot of ball movement, a lot of dribble handoffs, and they are actually featuring Anthony Davis in the offense. They are using him as the hub. And I think that that is the path forward for this Los Angeles Lakers team. You have to get Anthony Davis involved and you have to feature him. Obviously, LeBron James is one of the greatest players to ever play this game, but he is getting older. So you don't want to lean on him super heavily in the regular season. You want to have Anthony Davis lead the way for the team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Los Angeles Lakers team does moving forward. And they have a game tonight versus the Suns. So I'm going to be tuned into that.